Julian Hart had always been the steady one. A gentle soul with quiet strength, the kind of man who remembered birthdays without reminders and brought hot soup when your throat so much as scratched. He didn't light up a room, he warmed it. Slowly. Honestly, and now, on what was supposed to be the happiest day of his life, he stood in the back room of St. Bridget's Church gripping a letter in his trembling hands. His best man, Ethan, hovered nearby. "You sure about this?" Julian gave a tight nod, folding the letter, the one from his oncologist, and sliding it into his jacket pocket. "I don't want to start a marriage on a lie," he said quietly. "She deserves the truth." Outside. The church buzzed with anticipation. Rows of cream roses, white ribbon, friends, and family. The string quartet was tuning up. Everything was perfect, except him. 24 hours earlier, Julian had received the diagnosis, stage 4 pancreatic cancer, maybe 6 months. A year if lucky. A few trials, some chemo. No cure. He had spent the night debating, should he tell Claire before or after the wedding? Would she still want him? Should he give her the choice to walk away? In the end, he told her the truth that morning. Gently. Quietly. Eyes searching hers for anything, disbelief, anger, fear. What he saw instead was stillness. Claire had blinked. Nodded. Then excused herself to clear her head. That was 6 hours ago. Now, as guests whispered and the minister tapped his watch, Ethan's phone buzzed. Ethan frowned, read the screen, and glanced up. Julian. She's not coming. Julian felt the room tilt. What? She's gone. Left through the side door. Said she couldn't go through with it. Back in the second row, among the murmurs and confusion, a woman sat alone in a navy dress, her hands clenched tightly around her purse. Her name was Lena Park. She wasn't family. Not technically. She was Claire's former roommate, and Julian's friend long before Claire had entered the picture. They had met in university, bonded over terrible coffee and shared silences that felt like understanding. But timing was cruel. When Lena finally realized she had feelings for Julian, he was already with Claire, so Lena stayed quiet. Stayed close. Stayed. Available. A shoulder. A friend. The one who remembered to check in when Julian's mom passed. The one who reminded him to eat when his work got hectic, and now she sat frozen as the whispers grew louder. When Ethan approached the altar, whispering to the pastor, the truth rippled through the pews. The bride had left. Some gasped. Some rolled their eyes. Some reached for their phones. Lena stood. She didn't know what made her feet move. But something pulled her forward, past rows of gossiping guests, past wide-eyed cousins, until she was behind the altar, facing Julian. His shoulders were shaking. One hand clutched the edge of the bench like he needed it to stay upright. Lena placed a hand on his. He looked up. Tears streaked down his face. "She left," he said. Like he still didn't believe it. "I'm here," Lena whispered. 10 minutes later, the priest tried to address the crowd. "There's been a change," he began awkwardly. "We thank you for coming, but it seems," the double doors of the church burst open. A man in a lab coat, breathless, red-faced, barreled down the aisle, waving papers in his hand. Julian blinked. "Dr. Moritz?" The guests parted like the Red Sea. The doctor reached him, panting. "You need to see this." He handed over a folder. Julian read. Then again. His eyes widened. "What is this?" he asked. The doctor steadied his breath. "A lab mistake. Your results were switched. The cancer wasn't yours. We caught it 2 hours ago. I drove here the second I confirmed. You're healthy, Julian." Julian's lips moved but no sound came. "You're not dying," the doctor said, voice full of urgency. "You're going to live." The church erupted. People gasped. Someone clapped. A few even cried. Julian sat down hard. "She left me because she thought I was dying," he whispered. "And now I'm not." He looked up at Lena. "You stayed She nodded, eyes glistening. Of course I did. Julian stood slowly, the truth dawning in real time. His voice cracked. She didn't want the sickness. But you wanted me. Lena looked at him, this man she'd quietly loved, gently supported, always hoped for. I've always wanted you, she said. The guests sat in stunned silence, eyes darting between Julian, the doctor, and Lena. Julian stared at the letter again, reading the words over and over, as if willing them to be true. No cancer. No expiration date. A mistake. A miracle, and beside him, the only person still standing, was her, Lena. She wasn't wearing white. She wasn't holding a bouquet, but she was the one who had stayed when everything fell apart, and maybe that meant more than all the vows in the world. Julian looked down at her, something fierce and clear rising in his chest. Lena, he said, voice hoarse. Would you stay with me? For real? Her brows lifted, eyes widening. What are you saying? I'm saying, he took her hands. I spent the last year preparing to marry someone who walked away at the first sign of a storm. But you? You've been here all along. Lena blinked rapidly. Julian. You don't have to say yes, he added quickly. This isn't a proposal. Not like this. But, if you'll let me, I want to start something real. With you. No secrets. No conditions. Just us. The church was silent again, then Lena smiled. Small. Disbelieving. Hopeful, only if we get fresh vows, she said, squeezing his hand. And a new cake. The one today looks terrible. Julian laughed, a raw, genuine sound, and pulled her into a hug. 20 minutes later, as guests began filing out with stunned chatter and half-hearted jokes, Claire burst through the side door in her wedding dress, mascara streaked, heels in her hand. I made a mistake, she gasped, panting. Julian, I'm sorry. I was scared. I didn't mean to leave. She froze when she saw Lena standing beside him, holding his hand. Claire's voice faltered. What's going on? Julian turned to face her, calm but resolute. You made your choice, Claire. And I respect that. I don't blame you for being afraid. But you're not sick, she said, stepping forward. We can fix this. We can, he shook his head gently. You left when I needed you most. I'm not angry. But I won't spend my life wondering if you'll run again. Claire's lip trembled. You love me. I thought I did, he said softly. But real love doesn't flinch when things get hard. It leans in. He looked at Lena, then back at Claire. She stayed. And that told me everything. Claire opened her mouth. Then closed it. Her hands fell to her sides, she turned and walked out, her veil dragging behind like a ghost. A month later, in a small garden behind Julian's mother's old house, they did it all again, this time on their own terms. No string quartet. No designer gowns. Just folding chairs, fairy lights, and a handful of real friends. Lena wore navy again, her favorite color. Julian wore a simple suit. They wrote their own vows. Julian took her hands. I thought I had to earn love by being perfect. But you taught me that I was already enough. You saw me at my worst, and stayed anyway. I promise to do the same for you. To never run. To never hide. Lena wiped a tear before reading hers. I loved you long before you knew. I stayed long before you asked. And now, I get to walk forward with you, not because fate demanded it, but because we chose it. I choose you. Always. When they kissed, there were cheers, tears, and laughter, not because the moment was grand, but because it was real. Later that evening, as the last guests left and the lights dimmed, Julian and Lena sat on the porch swing. Do you ever think about what would have happened if I'd never gotten sick? Julian asked. She smiled. You wouldn't have known who really loved you. He turned toward her. And if I'd never been misdiagnosed? She hesitated. I would have stayed. And loved you anyway. even if it meant losing you. Julian took her hand and kissed it gently. I thank God every day for that lab mistake, he whispered. Lena leaned her head on his shoulder. Me too. They sat in silence, surrounded by crickets and warm summer wind, and in that moment, they both understood the truth: true love stays. Even when the sky falls. The end. My name is Temille Deebs. Please subscribe and make sure to click on the notification button to know when we upload a new video. Also like, share and comment your thoughts. See you in the next video.